Hello, 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 powerful mujeres. Welcome back to the Yes Mujer Build It podcast. We're going to talk about something really fundamental to you building whatever vision you have for your life, whatever business you're working on. If you're working on your career, maybe you're working on building a family, whatever goal you're working on building, creating, being in the space of creation. Guess what? If you're a first-gen Latina like me, there's going to be this thing called pressure that is going to try to sabotage you along the way of building your dream life. Yes, especially for first-gen Latinas. I think we live in this dichotomy of these two worlds. And because we're living in the middle of these two worlds, we feel this added pressure to have to succeed in life. We get to succeed in the American utopia world of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work harder and go to a good school and get a good job and make lots of money and create stability for you and your immigrant parents, right? Because we hear things all the time like, my parents came here for a better future for me. This is what I heard growing up as a kid, that my parents came here because they wanted me and my brother to have a better life than what they had experienced. Woo, that alone was pressure, right? But then I also got pressure at some point, especially in my 20s, to get married, to have kids, to be family oriented, to learn how to cook, to learn how to clean, right? So there was this other side of me also that was getting pressured, which was this Guatemalan Latina raised to be a good wife mindset, cultural beliefs about how I'm supposed to act in a family dynamic, that I'm supposed to be the woman of the house and what that means. So I felt that pressure too. I especially felt pressured in my 20s to get married. And then once I was married, me and Joey didn't have kids until we were married for almost 5 years. We had been married for 4.5 years by the time we got pregnant with Vivali. So during those 4.5 years, are you kidding? Every time I went to a Thanksgiving, every time, Navidad, mis tías, mis tíos, everybody would ask me, ¿y cuándo van a tener el primer hijo? ¿Cuándo van a tener niños? Oh, they would say this, which I always found annoying, especially as a Latina. They would say, ¿y cuándo van a empezar familia? ¿Cuándo van a empezar la familia? And I'd be like, wait a minute. What do you mean, when are we going to start a family? We are a family. Me and my husband are a family. We just got married. We're already a family. Doesn't that make us a family? Not in the Latino culture. Woo. So I felt on one side all of this pressure to actually build this career, this business, this money life, right? To be a success, quote unquote, in American terminology of what is success. I also felt this level of pressure to be this success in my Latinidad, in my Guatemalan upbringing, in my Central Americanness, that was more tied to being a good mother, a good wife, being a good family woman. Woo! The amount of pressure that we feel constantly, right? Whether it's pressure coming from one end of this or another end of this, we are under pressure. My fellow Latina first geners that are listening to this, and not only first geners, I think immigrants that are coming straight from straight from Mexico, straight from Centro America, straight from South America, whatever it is, right? But I think as first geners, because there's a little bit usually of somewhat of a stability that's been established with us, right? Like maybe we're in American schools. We're expected to succeed and do well in school and actually build these huge careers and be this American dream version of us. But we're also expected to hold on to our Latinidad and our cultural roots and how we were raised, which is that as women, we're supposed to have kids, first of all. And we're supposed to get married by the time we're 30, right? I know in many Latin countries, if you're not married by the time you're 26, 27, 28, or 30, it's like you're never going to get married. And then the pressure to have grandkids. Like that's the whole purpose of you getting married, is in order to have grandkids. There's also this unspoken cultural identity around being able to get easily pregnant, like this belief that as Latinas, we're fertile. That's part of my Latinidad also. That's part of how I was raised. So when I didn't get immediately pregnant the first time I wanted to get pregnant, I was like, what's going on? Why isn't this happening quickly, fast? I'm Latina. I'm supposed to be able to get pregnant at the drop of a dime or when I decide. And certainly when we had to turn to fertility treatments for the twins, it became even more of a heavy lifting for me. Woo! Heavy lifting in my ideology, right? Because then I started to feel more like I'm American, not Guatemalan, because the Guatemalan version of me should be able to get pregnant instantaneously. Like I should be able to wink at a guy and then it just happens. These are the beliefs that we then are fighting with internally. I felt for many years of my life this fight between the pressures of wanting to build a business, for example, that didn't fit into the traditional mold, certainly didn't fit into the traditional mold of what my parents had wanted for me, but also wanting to have a family, like also feeling deeply connected and deeply rooted to the calling in me to want to bring forth children and to want to raise children. So wanting to have both, that pressure, right? To be both. How do we manage that pressure? How do we deal with that pressure on a regular basis? Well, first of all, I want you to acknowledge that you are feeling that pressure now, that you are under that pressure now, and that almost all of us are constantly feeling the pressure of being American self-made and being Latinas who are community made. And we are both. We are actually both. So, step one is to build awareness around the fact that, yes, you are probably experiencing some form of pressure. And even though we love women of all different cultures and lots of women feel lots of different pressures, this is a distinct pressure for us, for Latinas. I think part of it is because our countries are right next door. Our countries are a couple of hours away. I mean, some of us literally grew up on border towns where you could be in Mexico for lunch and then eat dinner in the US, right? You could just 15 minutes cross the border and you grew up going back and forth and it was very easy. I heard of this one Walmart on the border where they accept pesos from Mexico and they accept dollars from the US. And it's just this bicultural, soup of everything mixing together, just depending on what you want to pay with at that moment. We live in these two worlds all the time. And because we live in these two worlds, yes, we experience double the pressure. We're getting pressure from the American world and the American patriarchal society of building, 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 the very masculine energy that comes with that. And then we also get pressure from our Latinidad, from our families, from our cultural backgrounds, from our indigenous roots. Yeah. And maybe it's not always said, but we can feel it. We can feel it in our body. Like for me, for instance, I still don't know how to make black beans, and they're my favorite food. But I really deeply felt from the time I was a young girl the importance of making sure there were black beans in my house. And what I mean by I don't know how to make black beans is I don't know how to make them from scratch. So I just want to let you guys know that. But my husband does. He knows how to make them from scratch because I asked him to please learn how to make them from scratch. My abuelita knows how to make them. My mom obviously knows how to make them. At some point in my life, I will learn how to make them from scratch. The calling in me was deeper than needing to learn how to make frijoles negros. It was more about making sure I have frijoles negros in the house and that my kids grew up with frijoles negros as an option in my household. That's what's important culturally to me. And I felt that pressure. Nobody put it on me. I put it on myself, but I felt that pressure. So there's also the pressures we put on ourselves, right? So how do we manage this? One, the awareness. Everything starts with awareness. If you're not aware, you're not able to react, to make decisions, to change something, to formulate a plan, right? Or to even shift the way you are looking at something so that you can have a different outcome. Woo! Awareness starts first. So when I started to become aware of the amount of pressure that I'm under, one, I became aware of the amount of pressure other people were putting on me that I was taking in, that I was actually believing what my parents were telling me, what my abuelita had told me, what my tias were telling me, that I had to learn how to cook, for example, or that I had to have kids immediately after I got married. So I was internalizing some of that pressure. And that awareness alone is enough to start letting go of that, because you can decide then, do I believe this? Or is this my tia's belief? And because she says it to me at every Thanksgiving, I have now internalized that I need to have kids quickly as soon as I get married, for example. So it has you stop to question the beliefs, right? So step one, awareness. Step two, question the beliefs, especially the beliefs that are coming from other people in your life that are not coming internally. And step number three, question the beliefs that are coming from you, because there are also pressures and beliefs that you are putting on yourself that maybe nobody else has told you, that you somehow are supposed to get a raise and get a promotion this year at work and have your boss absolutely love the work you're doing and be home by 5 o'clock and have a well-cooked meal that is healthy for the entire family, right? Who tells us that we have to do this? Where are we getting it? And I'm sure we're getting it from 100 different places, but there is also a little voice inside you that is telling you that that's what success looks like, that that is your definition of success. How is that working for you? Is that working for you? I figured out probably in my early 30s that the original definitions I had written out for what a successful life would look like or feel like was not going to work for me, was no longer working for me. So this idea that I had to have it all together and that I had to have, first of all, this like great looking house all the time. Yeah, not realistic. Not realistic to have a clean house all the time unless you have full-time help, which, by the way, is another one of these shifts in terms of how we view things. Because in Guatemala, there are a lot of families that are well off that do have full-time help. It is part of the culture. You have a niña that lives in the house. And I think this is so sad that we use indigenous women to maintain a lifestyle. But in Guatemala, this is what well-off families do. They have somebody who lives in the house and helps clean and cook and do the laundry. And you don't have to be that well off to have that. Now, in the United States, you have to be really well off to have that. Somebody who is full-time in your house as a cook, cleaner, and nanny, basically. That requires, some heavy lifting financially. So we don't have that in our culture, which makes it even worse in the American culture, because then we put it on ourselves. We put it on ourselves, right? It goes back to that beliefs around what pressure am I deciding to put on myself? And is that working for me? So step three, what are the pressures that I'm putting on myself that I'm now aware of? Do those definitions of success currently serve me? Is that realistic? Or am I expecting way too much of myself? Whew. I had to come to terms with the fact that there were certain things that I was going to make a priority and certain things that I just wasn't. Certain things that my mom had taught me were important, my abuelita had taught me were important, certain things that came from Guatemala that I thought were important, but just weren't going to make it to my, yes, I'm committed to list. So I decided to let go of a bunch of beliefs that no longer served me. And this, my dear, is how you learn to manage the pressure that we feel as first-gen Latinas. We decide what serves us and we keep what serves us, like my frijoles negros and plátanos fritos. Those also serve me. And we decide what beliefs no longer serve us, that don't fit into this version of us that is living in these two worlds, right? This dual cultural version of us. What fits in and what doesn't. You get to decide. You get to decide what you're keeping and what you're letting go of. So, things that I decided to let go of. One, I let go of the belief that I had to have kids early on. Even though everybody and their mother and my abuelita and all my tias were like, you're getting older, Wendy. So I had my oldest daughter, Vivly, at 34. And then I had the twins at 37. That's still young. They're women now in their 40s having kids. But back in the day when I got married at 29, almost 30, they were like, you got to have kids early because, you're almost 30. So let's go. You got to, fertility starts going down at 30. And it's this like cultural understanding that you have kids at a younger age. Didn't work for me. Didn't work for where I was at in my life. I wanted to enjoy my early 30s. I had just gotten married. I wanted to enjoy being with my husband. I wanted to travel. I wanted to figure out our finances. I mean, there were a bunch of things that I wanted to do before I actually started having kids. And I'm so grateful to all of that because those couple of years, those 4 years, the amount of maturity that I stepped into in those 4 years really allowed us to, when the kids did start coming, to really make the sacrifices that you have to make as parents, where it's no longer about you and now it becomes about the kids. So let go of that belief that I had to have kids early on. Also let go of the belief that I had to have stability all the time in terms of a job that had a 401k and an insurance plan and could give me a check every 2 to 4 weeks or whatever. Yes. So my parents both had sold me on this belief, right, that we were here so that me and my brother could make something of ourselves and have these big careers. But it was always from the viewpoint of a career. You went to school, you got a degree, you got a master's degree, then you went to work and you got a job, and then that's how you made money. And as you guys know, that wasn't my story. That wasn't what worked for me. I did all of that and I was miserable. I was exhausted. I knew that if I kept going down that road, I wasn't going to make that much money. And if I did decide to have kids and get married, I was never going to see my family. Right? All of that was true. So ended up letting go of that belief, ended up letting go of that pressure that it didn't have to look the way that my parents were saying. And by the way, that American culture also tells us it has to look like. It has to look like hard work. Hard work will pay off. I decided, no, I was going to do something different. I was going to follow my passion. I was going to follow what my heart was telling me and what actually felt good. And I was going to work smarter and not harder. Yeah, what a concept. So I decided that certain beliefs just weren't serving me. And I was going to let them go. And I did. I started to let them go. I started to tell my brain, delete, delete, delete every time somebody would ask me, for instance, when are you going to have kids? You've already been married for 2 years. How come you and Joey don't have kids yet? Which, by the way, is none of anybody's business. We could decide to stay married forever and never have kids. We could have made that decision. It was nobody's business. But in a Latino family, they're going to ask you. They're just going to ask you. Automatically, they are. They're going to ask you. You know what else I let go of? Here's something simple. We used to go to family parties when the kids were little, and somehow it was my responsibility to make sure the kids all got fed. My kids, my 3 kids. This is a Latino family dynamic cultural belief that if you're at a family gathering, it is the mother's job to make sure the kids got fed or that the kids had a plate of food and that everybody was taken care of. Well, in my household, it is both me and my husband's job, both of us together, to make sure our 3 kids are fed. So I remember being at a family gathering. It must have been a quinceañera or something. And my mom was like, ¿Y los niños? ¿Les vas a dar de comer? Like, in other words, in the kids, are they going to get fed? And I was like, oh, yeah, Joey's getting them plates. What? Joey's getting them food? But like, you could just see my mom having this like thought in her head of like, wait, you're not getting them food? You're not standing in the buffet line with the plates getting the food for your kid? I just saw her look, right? And I was like, mommy, Joey can sit in the buffet line and actually get the kids food. It's okay. Like we talked about it, and she's like, oh, but does he know that, Luca doesn't like this and that Leia only eats this. And she went into a little space of like controlling what they could eat or not eat and reminding us. And I'm like, yes, he knows. He's their father. Of course he knows. So in that moment, I realized, oh, yes, because in many families, the father is just the breadwinner. He doesn't know what the kids like or don't like, and he's certainly not standing in the buffet line waiting with 3 plates to like get his kid food. That's the mom's job. Yeah. Done, done, done. Girl, I let go of that belief too. I was like, that's not going to serve me. This idea that it always has to be me, always. No, that's going to set us back. That means I'm on mom duty at 100%. And what is he? He's at 0%? No, this is a 50-50 thing. We're both putting in the work, which means sometimes he gets the food. Now, listen, sometimes I get the food. It doesn't mean that I'm not being mom. I am. But it's a shared responsibility. It's not 100% on my back to make sure my kids ate. It is both of us. If we're both at an event, it's a dual partnership. That's what marriage is. That's what parenting is. We're co-parenting. We are figuring it out together. So that's another belief that I let go of a long time ago. Here's the bottom line, guys. As first-gen mujeres, as Latinas, there's a lot of pressure. And I think we have more pressure than the average American woman because we're getting pressure from both sides. And it's ingrained in us. So, number 1, be aware. Be aware that you are under pressure. Number 2, figure out, what is the pressure coming from? Is it coming from outside sources? What are the beliefs that other people have implanted in me or have decided that I need to believe, right? Find out, what are the beliefs that you have decided. So do a little investigation in yourself of, what have I put on myself to believe? What have I chosen to believe, right? And most importantly, this is the most important part of how to manage first-gen pressure. Do these beliefs serve me? Are they working for me? In my current life, are they working for me? Or do I need to let some of them go? A great question to be in is, what do I want culturally to hold on to that is of dire importance to me, that I know I want to teach my kids? I'll tell you, the things that I really want to hold on to from Guatemala that I really want to teach my kids is, 1, community and family is most important. You help each other out. You know who your neighbors are. You talk to them. We are in it together, which is something that I feel when I'm in Guatemala, right? 2, real poverty exists outside of the US. And yes, there is poverty in the US, but I remember the first time I went to Guatemala and I saw real poverty where a kid didn't have any shoes. He didn't have a shirt on. I mean, it was different than seeing homeless people here in the United States. And when you travel, that's part of what expands your horizon, right? So I want to hold on to that. What does real poverty look like? Yeah. Woo. Those are beliefs that I want my children to start to experience, to, make their own decisions, but I want to bring that culturally to them. I want to teach them about the Mayan Empire and about the geniuses that the Mayan people were. I want them to be proud Guatemalans, proud to be of Mayan descent. And I really want to hold on to our music, marimba. So amazing. I love marimba music. I want them to know what a marimba is, to recognize the sounds, the songs, maybe even to play a marimba someday. That would make me so happy, to be at like Vivali's wedding and they have marimba during the wedding. That gives me goosebumps just thinking about that. But there's a lot of things in my culture that don't work for me anymore. This idea of needing to have kids as soon as you get married, even the idea of needing to get married young, doesn't work for me. The idea and belief that as women, we're supposed to be the ones who clean the house, take care of the kids, make the food, do all of the raising of the children, doesn't work for me either. This is a shared partnership with your husband. It gets to be a shared partnership with your husband, is my belief, or with your partner, whoever your partner is. all of the basic necessities of maintaining a home don't just get thrown on us, because we're also out there hustling, working, building the American dream also. Now, there are certain things about the American dream that I'm going to let go of too, that I've been letting go of. For example, that it's all about me and just about me. Like if I get mine, then it's all good. That doesn't work for me either in the American culture. It's not just about me. It's about all the Latinas that I'm bringing to the table with me. It's about rising as a community, right? And it is not just about money and profits and more, faster, faster, faster. It's also about slowing down to enjoy what you're building as you're building it. And more is not always better. More money is not always better. Bigger house is not always better. Faster car is not always better. You have to stop and really check in with yourself on what makes you happy. Yeah. I'm starting to believe that businesses are more like nature. There's an ebb and a flow, and there's seasons, versus the business being like this building that you just put, bricks and bricks and bricks and make taller and taller and taller. So, certain things about American culture don't serve me either. What's important is that I'm questioning it, that I'm in the question of what are the beliefs that serve me and what are the beliefs that don't. And once you've figured out what are the beliefs that just don't sit with you anymore, let them go. Let those beliefs go because they don't work for you. In fact, if you hold on to those beliefs, you're going to feel guilty. It's going to make you feel worse because, like for me, I'm just not going to do the cooking. So if I think that my identity as a good mom is whether or not I cook food for my kids, I'm going to be miserable if that's my belief, right? So I let go of the belief that I have to be a good cook to be a good mom, or that I even have to cook to be a mom. I let go of that belief. Yes. Now, I do cook every once in a while, but Joey does the majority of the cooking. I do the majority of the business work. Yes. And that's okay. It's okay for me to want to spend more time, for example, recording this podcast, than spend time in the kitchen. Although, and I'll end with this, I will learn someday to make frijoles negros because that is part of the cultural dynamics of being Guatemalan that I'm going to hold on to no matter what. All right, guys, I will see you all on the next episode of Yes Mujer Build It.